everybody. I'm your host, Ashley Tresling, and welcome to Food for Life this week. I am so excited. We don't have one guest, but two guests, two amazing women that are thriving in their careers, thriving in life, and had to overcome so many crazy things. And they're going to share their stories. And I can't wait to get to it. So we have a jam-packed show today. So I'm not going to waste a minute. I'm going to welcome in Julie, and we're going to say hi and then get to it. Right, Julie?
All right, let's do it. How are you, Ashley?
I am good and so excited for our guests. They are amazing, amazing women, and I can't say enough about them.
I know,
So
I'm pretty
our
jealous
first
myself.
guest today is Lauren Buckner of Lauren Buckner Consulting. I've gotten to know her lately. I took one of her workshops, and she is a fountain of knowledge. But the reason I wanted to have her on, she just launched a book. How amazing is that? That's such a good accomplishment. So, Lauren, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do?
Yes, so my name is Lauren Buckner, and I am presently in Washington, D.C., but I am from St. Louis, Missouri. I am a business consultant, and so I have opened up my own agency to work with small business owners to really help women primarily build strong businesses on a solid foundation so they leverage their business income and create what I call money babies. And that's that long, strong money, right? That money that's rolling in. And this business is so important to me because it's something that I wanted to do for a long time. I've been practicing law for 17 years. I'm a business and real estate development attorney. And in this practice, I've been working with large companies. I've worked with the government. I've worked with so many, I guess, want to say top tier companies and help build them and really structure them. And the one thing that I always wanted to do was to really help what I call regular people, right? Like people who will never get access to like multi-million-dollar coaching, who will never be able to afford those billable rates for like the business, consultant or the attorney that they really need. And so this year I was able to take a big leap and leave the formal practice of law after 17 years and to step fully into who I am and who I believe I'm supposed to serve. And that's now working with, small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and primarily female businesses to really empower them and give them all the tools and the skills that I've learned, that I've used myself in creating my businesses and other people's businesses to help them thrive so that they are financially sound and secure. And we'll talk a little bit more later, I'm sure, but that whole financial security piece comes in from like my background, right? Like I really grew up in poverty, struggled a lot, had a lot of abandonment, adversity, like a lot of crap, right, that happened growing up, and everything really stemmed from lack of money. And so I really had a focus my whole life on never not having money, right? I wanted to always have money and learn how to grow money. And when I stepped into this legal practice in this business world, it was just like a gem because, it was by chance that I even got over on the side of the tracks, right? Coming from like my background, and then to be able to absorb that information, start my own businesses, and now be able to help other women do the same thing. It's a full circle moment. And like right now I'm a little hoarse today because, we've got a lot going on. I've been working crazy the past month, like just influx of clients. And I'm just loving it though. I'm like in this amazing moment. And I'm just really, really excited.
I love her because she's such a bright, shiny person. And I love like her energy. But the best thing about it is I've had a business for 10 years. And I have to say that, the last few years have been hard for me. But Lauren taught me things in that workshop that it's kind of like one of those things like, you should have known this, but I didn't kind of thing. It's like one of those things like you run a business, but people don't tell you that this is what you need to make it better. And I know so many business owners that don't actually know this either. Like somebody should have told us along the way, or somebody should have stepped in and helped us. We didn't know these things. And I learned so much in a week taking her workshop than I have in 10 years, which says a lot about me too. But so
What, Lauren, what seems to be your biggest aha moment with your clients? Like, when is it that like the light bulb comes together and they're like, oh my gosh, like there's so many things I didn't know and how to get there. Like, what is it that you find that most business owners struggle with?
Kind of everything. And I hate to say that. And I hate to say that it's because most business owners haven't built their business on a solid foundation, right? And so by solid foundation, I mean like they have a business plan, like a really thorough business plan that they've created strategic plans from, like for each quarter. And then they have like an organizational structure in place, right? And if they know how their systems are going to work, they know how their money is going to flow. They have literally their whole foundation in place before they launch the business and get going. Most business owners don't have that. And so that is usually the aha moment, because I'll ask them certain questions, things that they should know. And they're like, oh, I don't know this. And I'm like, well, let's just look at your business plan. And then they're like, oh, I don't have a business plan. I'm like, oh, okay, that's it. So you haven't really thought about like all these things beforehand. What happens is most business owners start in the middle, which is like life. You start where it's exciting, right? Nobody wants to sit down with a business attorney or consultant to talk about that, because we're going to be the Debbie Downers. We're going to say, hold on, let's roll that back. You want to start in the middle. They go buy all the inventory. They buy the sunglasses, right? They get the website. They do all the shiny, fun things. And then they're like, I have my business, and they start their business and they make money. You're always going to make money right away because you got like you got a warm audience. You got a friend, you got a family, you got somebody that's going to buy something, and they think, oh, I got it. And then that stops because that strand's going to dry up, right? Those warm people, they're not going to buy from you every day, right? So you need to always be bringing new people. And then they're like, I didn't make any money month 2, month 3, or year 1, or, I don't have any money coming in. And then you have to go back to the foundation, and that's where they missed it. So they never had the systems. They didn't know how they were going to really keep things flowing. And that's the boring part. And it's not sexy. And I realized that, and it's depressing and it's sad. So, and nobody wants to start off there. But I tell you that if you don't start off at the bottom, you're going to end up right back there anyway. So you might as well just start at the bottom and build up, instead of starting in the middle, build up, and then have to go all the way back. Because that does something to your mindset. When you have to like reset, when you have to rebrand, when you have to like pivot all the time because you weren't organized, right? And then that's when people quit. And I don't want anybody to quit. I want us to start strong and build that long money.
I love that. Can you tell me, like, you've had the least traditional career path I've ever heard of a person. Like, you were a lawyer, but then you opened a yoga studio and health and wellness, and now you're a business coach, but you still practice law at the same time. So explain to me how that all works for you.
Yes. Okay. So ironically, it all moves together. Doesn't sound like it, right? So yes, I am a lawyer by profession. Like, that's my education. I went to law school and whatever. So I started practicing law, and, we're all multifaceted, right? And so before law school, I had a life. I was a dancer. So, and I was an athlete. I was a collegiate athlete. I ran track in college. I danced in college. I went professional after college. I danced. I moved to South America. I danced there for 2 years in Bolivia, toured. And so health and wellness is like, fitness movement is who I am. And then I got inspired to go to law school while I was living in Bolivia, South America. And I came back to St. Louis, Missouri, and went to law school. And ironically, here's a segue, like there's something big that happened that kept me in St. Louis. I came to go to law school to get an international and comparative law certificate, so I could have an emphasis to go back to Bolivia. I also was a Spanish major in undergrad. So I was going to go back to South America to live, right? And I came home, and something very big happened, and it just changed the trajectory of my life. And that's actually the chapter I wrote in the book, Women Thrive. So I'm not going to tell you what happened, but that's what happened. It literally changed my life. And I didn't go back to South America. Instead, I went straight into corporate America to make money quickly. And it was a snowball. And I just got caught in it, and I was good. And I got a tap in 2009 to come out to DC from St. Louis to join the DC Attorney General's office to serve as an assistant attorney general under the Obama administration. So I came out in 2009, and I stayed with the government for 3 years, and I represented the district in their disposition and acquisition of abandoned and vacant properties, and worked with developers to get them off of the vacant list and build up and back on the tax roll. I went back to private practice. I really wanted to leave. I wanted to just leave and kind of go back to my movement, and I couldn't. I had a family, I had some obligations. And so I started to build another, trajectory of my practice, got to partnership, and crashed, literally crashed, because I was overbooked too busy. I wasn't on my own schedule. And to be honest, I was not doing what I was passionate about. I had gotten really good at business law and real estate law, but it wasn't really, and I was working in a box, like literally a office, a box. And it wasn't who I was, who I am. Like I'm a mover. Like you said, I'm energetic, right? And so I crashed and I left the practice. I took a sabbatical for 2 years. And in that 2 years, I tapped back into Lauren. That was the health and wellness side. And so in tapping back into who I was, I realized that other women also were struggling, busy, overbooked women. And I started teaching classes. I didn't intend for that to be a business, but the women were like, oh my God, this is what we need. And so Body by Buckner was formed. And then I started that in 2017 and just kept it going. And then went back to the practice after a couple of years when I was sane and I felt better. And was already doing business consulting because as a real estate and business lawyer, that's what you do. You consult, you strategize. It's not just the legal part. I think that's what people don't understand about a business attorney. It's not just the legal part. It's also the strategy, because you have to understand the strategy in order to create the documents, right? So that was always a part of what I did. And then I started to really want to work with regular people. And I started building my own businesses. I have my health and wellness business. I also am a real estate investor. I own properties. And so I wanted to teach other women how to do the same things that I was doing. And really it was just how to get, tap into their passion, and then to be able to make their own money and control their destiny. And so it took me a while to be able to unwind that career and step out now where I am. But as a business consultant or strategist, I am unique in the fact that I do bring the legal aspect. Most business strategists and consultants are not lawyers, and vice versa. So working with me, you literally get the best of both worlds. It's intertwined in the way I work with you. It's intertwined in the way I teach, the way I coach. If I'm actively working as your consultant in your business transaction, it's like you and I together. I'm 2 for 1 in that regard, right? If I'm coaching you, like kind of in the master class, I'm coming from a legal aspect. We're talking about it, even if you don't realize it, it's in there, right? And even just the structure that I'm teaching. So it is a crazy like trajectory, I think, that I've gone on. People are like, you're all over the place, but I'm really not. It's who I am 100%. And so, it's just, it just comes out differently. And I think obviously, not everybody lives out loud. And I've just had the opportunity to be able to live my life out loud, and people get to see that. And it looks a little weird, I think, but I hope that they might be motivated.
No, that's great. What has each of your careers really taught you? Like, have you taken something different from each of them? Like, has it taught you something? Has it shown you something different about the world? I mean, there's always something to learn.
Yeah. I guess I don't even really think of them so much separately. I think that my career in general, my work, my professional career has just taught me that like anything is possible. I'm just going to be honest with you, like that you can do anything. Like when I had to pretend that I was super happy, practice the law, even that was doing anything. Like who could be happy practicing and pretending? That's crazy. To step out and start my own businesses, to be able to now reroute my life and like leave a solid, comfy, job and check, to step out here into this entrepreneurial world. I think it's just, this whole process has just shown me that you can do anything. And then it's also just shown me to, to trust in yourself, because a lot of times we are put in situations that maybe we're not prepared for. But if you trust in yourself, like, and know that you will reach the goals, you can reach out for resources, you can do it, then I think it makes things so much easier. There's some lofty things I could say I've learned, how to be more organized, how to manage my time, which is true. Like I am a time management guru, like as I was trying to say, well, let me see if I can fit this in. Let me check my calendar, because I do live by the calendar. I believe that you have to really manage your time in order to juggle so many different things, and so, yeah, organization, time management. I've learned a lot about how to be a leader. I've learned a lot about how to use my voice and how to use my voice in a way to motivate people and to encourage them to go beyond their comfort zone. Being a business lawyer and a strategist, like that's kind of what I do every day, is I encourage you to jump off the cliff and trust. And, that takes a lot, to be able to do that. And so I've learned how to be able to lead a person comfortably into the abyss.
What motivates you, Lauren? Like, you have so much passion and energy behind all of your projects. Like, I'd love to hear more about like what's that burning flame for you that keeps you going?
Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to be honest. It's the money. And for me, when I say it's the money, it's the lack of. So, Julie, I grew up in poverty, lack. I grew up with a mother who was an alcoholic, who struggled with mental health issues. I never met my father. We just lived we just lived a very traumatic life, right? And a lot of things, like I mentioned earlier, stemmed from the lack of money. And the lack of money meant the lack of control, lack of power, right? Lack of say. So now you just have to move and flow. And I had to move and flow through some very bad situations, some very bad homes and different things. And I realized literally at an early age that money was the root of happiness, and not in the sense of like I need to have millions and like, be like out here making it rain, right? But like that having money, having a way to make money and to consistently make money was that was the gag. Like that was what was going to have to happen. And so early in life, sitting in my elementary school classrooms, I remember just fantasizing about building businesses, about having money, about doing things on my own, about being very independent. And that just has driven me throughout my whole life, to be honest. Like every obstacle that has been put in front of me, I've been able to say, listen, I can overcome this. I've been at the bottom of the barrel. I'm going to tell you, I've been in and out of trash cans looking for food, right? I have lived in homes with no running water, no electricity, places where you shouldn't even be. I've lived at the bottom of the barrel. So when a lot of things happen to me, I'm kind of like, I'm on the football field. I'm like, oh, no, not me. Right. So I'm like bobbing and weaving out there and pivoting because I will never go back. And so as I have gotten older and as I gain knowledge and I realize that there are so many people, so many women primarily, and I mean men too. I don't want to discredit men, but there's so many women out here who are struggling financially. And because they're struggling financially, it puts them in certain situations. It puts them in certain situations, and the situations could be, changed if they just had a little bit more power, a little bit more control, and they had that financial security. And so that is what drives me. Like, that's what's driving me now. That's what's always driven me, was that like, I was never going to be lack, no control. I don't have a bench. I have no one to tap behind me to say, I need help. There's never been anyone else. It's only been me. And so having that, like, is my mindset, like it's me, it's got to be me, is just really what has driven me and what continues to drive me.
I want to hear a little more about your book that you just launched. I want to hear about like what made you want to write a book and everything that's in it and where we can buy it.
Yes. So the book is called Women Thrive. It is volume 2, and it's a co-authored book. So I co-authored this book with 7 other amazing powerhouse women. And the book is about stories of women. Thank you. The book is about stories of women who've overcome adversity. And everyone's level of adversity is just different, right? So that's the unique part of this book in life. And I have been wanting to start to share about my story, a lot of things that have happened to me and, for me, I guess, in a way, for a while. But there's a part of my life, which is kind of that pivot part that I told you about that I'm holding back, that is my story, but it includes other people's stories. And so for a long time, I just really felt like I couldn't tell that part of my life, right? And that I had to hold that back. But that's a really important part of my life, because that's another reason why I do go so hard and why I kind of got what people might think off track of my life. And then now it seems like I've done this like crazy pivot, but like there were things that I had to do because of certain things. And so I've been wanting to tell that story. And I started to work on speaking, right? Doing public speaking and, really want to move more into that space. But I really wanted to memorialize it on paper. And I got a chance to submit to be part of this book. I submitted a writing sample to see if I might be selected, and I was. And I spent 7 months working with an amazing team. It's a European-based team, amazing team, and my other co-authors writing. And so I have a chapter in the book. It's about 10,000 words, so it's a substantial chapter. And the title is Stronger Than We Know. And again, it goes back to the strength. And in this chapter, I really talk about the not even talk about, I describe, it's a narrative, and it was very hard to write because I had to re-experience a lot of things in order to put it on paper. But I talk about a lot of things that happened to me in my childhood, a lot of things I experienced. I share those stories. I share the stories that, really made me pivot and make that big change that, I'm holding back. And then I just share a lot of life lessons in the book. And the book is for anyone who's ever felt like life just let them down. It's for anyone who has ever just felt like it's only you, that you don't have anybody else to push through. It's for anyone who's ever felt like there's just a roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And why would I even want to keep going? It's for you. And it's for that woman that has been just trying to find her inner strength. This chapter is for you. And I wrote it and I cried writing this. I had to dig deep, and I wrote it because my story, although it's unique to me, it's not unique, right? And there are other women out there who need to see themselves in someone who, and I'll get emotional, who has come across the other side. I think a lot, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. We're here.
We can't wait to read your book.
I'm sorry. It's so fresh for me. I think a lot of women give up. My mom gave up. I know it. I've going through this writing process, I had to go back to relive my life. And I was able to mark the moment where my life really changed as a young person. And my mom gave up. My mom didn't think she had a way out. She didn't think she had the power. She didn't think she was strong enough. She was. She just didn't know it. And there are a lot of women who don't know it. And so this book, this chapter is for you. And it's me sharing with you what I've gone through. Not to compare what you're going through with what I went through, but to show you that you can do it. You can, but you just got to keep going. Take one step every day, because we are really stronger than we know. And that's why that's the name of the chapter. And that's why I wrote the book.
I love everything that you just said, because I see the passion behind it and the energy, and you are a beautiful person with a beautiful story, and you're so magnetic, and I can't wait to dive into your book. And thank you so much for sharing your story, because your voice helps those that don't feel like their voice is worth enough to tell to you, and you're able to give power to people. So thank you so much for writing this, and we can't wait.
I smell Christmas presents and stocking stuffers coming our way for everybody. So don't tell anybody, but I smell stocking stuffers for people. So, Lauren, we're going to have you take a minute. And after the break, we're going to welcome our second guest, Cindy. And then Lauren's going to be back at the end for a little Q&A about some things about how to help women. Thank you for joining us. Now, go take a breath. Breathe. Take a drink of water. Everything's good. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Gina.
And we're the hosts on Fire and Light Talk. So join us every Thursday, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Positive Vibrations right here on E360 TV.
That was so powerful what Lauren had to share. And in continuing with women that are thriving and overcoming, we are going to welcome our next guest, Cindy Gersch, who I had the pleasure of meeting earlier this year. And the minute she talked, all I could think of is she reminds me of my family. And then I found out why. Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Hi, Lauren. Hi, Julie. I know. I loved meeting you. And I had met Lauren in the same conference that I met you.
Unfortunately, I had already left because I couldn't stay any longer. And then that was too funny. I wish I met Lauren while I was there, and I just happened to meet her a different way. So the funny thing is that when I say that you reminded me of my family, as my family's all from upstate New York. And the way you talked and the way you were saying, I'm like, she reminds me of my family because you sound like them.
That Western New York, that Buffalonian, upstate New York accent that we all have, right?
Let me ask you, Cindy, so there is something about upstate New York that is only there and nowhere else in the country. It's a garbage plate, I think. That's what they...
Yes, the garbage plate, which for those who don't know, it's either 2 cheeseburgers or 2 hamburgers or 2 hot dogs, okay, with home fries. macaroni salad, and then they put a like hot sauce that has like meat on it, and you smother it all over with this hot sauce. You put and then you wrap it all together and you eat it. And it's really good at 2:00 in the morning after you've had a few beverages.
Yeah. Ashley, I'm sure, have you heard of the Gersch plate before, Ashley?
I think from my cousins when they were, of a younger certain age. I can't really say.
Yeah.
The things that people always get from me, there is a hotel here that remodeled and I went to their opening during restaurant week and everything. And the chef, I was looking at the menu, and Cindy, on the menu, they had some dishes, and I'm sitting there going, this guy has to be from upstate New York, because they had vodka riggies and they had greens. And I'm like, the only way to have that is if you've either lived or worked in upstate New York, because nobody on the planet around here knows what that is.
Where was he from? Did you ask? Did you get a chance to ask?
Somebody said that he did work in upstate New York. I didn't get a chance to personally talk to him that night, but there's no way on earth he didn't know what that was.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, we definitely have our own, I'm back here now. Like I said, I live in Atlanta, but I'm actually in Buffalo right now, spending some time with my mom. And I really love it. I actually there's something about the people here and just like a comfort that I feel coming home. I love Western New York. I'm a huge Buffalo Bills fan, and I don't know, there's, like I said, it's like, it's coming home for me. It really, truly is.
Yeah, it's just that. But Cindy, why don't you tell our audience, we skipped a little step again, because we get so excited talking to friends of mine that I get so excited that I would love you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah. So I am, I'm Cindy Gersch, as you said, and I am a single mom. I own a marketing agency. I live in Atlanta, like you said, and my life has changed so dramatically. All of this, owning a marketing agency, that wasn't really even in my mind until 5 years ago when I was diagnosed with a super rare arterial disease that nobody has ever heard of. I mean, I was running marathons before I was diagnosed. I actually ran a half marathon the week before I was diagnosed. And I just remember going to the emergency. I'd run 13 full marathons, including Boston, the year after the bombing, which in and itself, I know, right? It was that in and itself was such a crazy story. But I ran a half marathon and I went to the emergency room the next week thinking that I was having a stroke. And I remember the doctor saying, the good news is you're not having a stroke. The bad news is we've never seen this disease here before. We're going to send your scans off to a hospital that has dealt with this. And hopefully you don't have it. Like, most people haven't had this. Hopefully you haven't had it, but don't worry about it. Like, probably they haven't seen it.
And of course you're going to worry, because it's like,
I keep running, I was like, what can I keep running? And so anyways, they couldn't get me in for 3 months, of course. And I lived my life like normal, because they told me probably you don't have it. And then I got down there and lo and behold, I have this disease. And that was really where my life completely changed. Like, every part of my life completely changed from that day forward. And at that moment, my life had changed and I had thought it changed. I'm way better than I was back then, because when I got told I had this diagnosis, the first thing that I lost was my running, right? Because they said immediately, because of this disease, which is a super rare arterial disease, and it makes your arteries misshaped and it makes your arteries very weak. So we're at very high risk for dissections, aneurysms. I actually have 2 brain aneurysms as we speak. I have 2 brain aneurysms. Makes us really high risk for heart attacks, strokes, all the fun things. So obviously you can't be out there doing long endurance races, because that, naturally that's very hard on your body as it is. But now when I have this disease, so the first thing that it took away from me was my running. That was very hard for me, because my running was like, if you're a runner, anybody who's running who knows this, it really was my everything. Like, I was running 70 to 80 miles a week. So that was the first thing that was taken away from me. And then my husband at the time, he's now my ex-husband, because of this disease, by the way, 17 years we were married. He left me on Christmas Day through a note saying he can't be married to me anymore because I need to be with someone who can be more empathetic because of, so you talk about things that
imagine.
You think of, yeah. And that's the thing, like had he left me 3 Christmases ago, I would be in a very different mind state than I am right now. Because so many people were like, how did you handle that? How do you handle losing your husband of 17 years out of something that you have no control over? You know, it's like, you know, in sickness and in health and all the things. And I said, if this had happened to me 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle it, to be honest. Because anyways, he, at the time I got diagnosed, 5 months later, he left for a year deployment. He's active duty Army. So I was learning to deal with this extremely very rare disease, basically on my own, with my 2 young kids at the time. They were 9 and 12, still working full time, not being able to run, all the things. It was like a lot. Then while he was gone, that's when I found out I had these 2 brain aneurysms. They said, oh, by the way, you have this disease and you do have 2 brain aneurysms because of it. You can no longer run, you know, so it was all these things. Then like 90% of my friends left. And I know Ashley and I talked about this a lot because of some of the issues that you have, Ashley. Like that's very common when you have chronic diseases. Your friends just leave you. It's called secondary losses. My mom and I talk about it a lot. And it is one of the hardest things about having a disease like mine, because you really find out who your true friends are and the people who are around you who really love you. And then I came back from short-term disability because I did go out on 6 weeks term disability. And I came back, and 2 days later, I lost my corporate job. So within about, I don't know, like a 2-month period of time, I felt like I lost everything that I had, right? I felt like I lost my entire identity. Who was I if I wasn't the marathon runner? Who was I if I wasn't the fun party person who was always hosting parties for all of her friends? Who was I if I wasn't the corporate, you know, woman who had, you know, shattered the glass ceiling, vice president of corporate communications for a multi-billion-dollar industry with her business suits on, traveling, all the things? I'd lost everything. I felt like I had lost everything. And so I hit rock bottom, about as low as you could go. Like so bad where when my ex was gone, I sat in my car in the garage, like ready to turn it up. Like that's how close I got. And with a bottle, like I drank like every morning to night. Like I became like, I don't want to say I became an alcoholic because it was more like a functioning drunk.
It's very common for people with chronic disease or whatever, one, the mental health aspect to it, that people don't really realize that you're dealing with health problems. Just because I'm not having an exacerbation right now from my MS, or I'm not having that, doesn't mean that mentally all the things I have to do in a day just to function as a human being isn't stressful. And then they tell you that stress is bad for you, right?
Yeah.
So life is essentially bad for you and you have to manage your stress. So there's no good way to like function as a human being and function with your disease and then try to do like the extra stuff and show up and be present as much as you can. And then you're miserable for some reason. I've gotten really good at pretending.
Well, you do. You know, people say to me all the time, they're like, you don't look sick. And I'm like, right, because I have I'm in chronic pain every single day. I take 7 prescriptions daily. But people don't, what am I going to do? Like not live my life? Like I have 2 kids. I'm a single mom now. I own a business. You know what I mean? Like I have to still live my life. But I realized then when I was sitting in that car that night, that if I did this, my baby, who would my babies have? Right. It was truly because of my kids and my one friend who stuck by me, because she literally, my girl, she was the one who like would not let go, right? She was the one who came over at 2:00 in the morning and would bring a box of chocolate and would stay up with me just to make sure that, like, this gets me emotional because she saved my life. Like for real, she saved my life. Because if it wasn't for her and my 2 babies, I would not be talking to you all right now. That is the honest God truth. And so I say all the time, and I like actually trademarked this phrase because so many people loved it and they were like, oh my God. I say all the time, and I taught my daughter this phrase, and I say it's so much better to have 1 dime than 10 pennies. right? Wouldn't you rather have one dime in your pocket than 10 pennies floating around? And she's my one dime. She's the one person who stood by me, and she still is. And it literally saved my life. And she helped me turn my life around, and she picked me up and she stayed with me and she made sure I was okay. So my husband got home. He got home and I ended up in the hospital for 2 weeks with sepsis, where I really did almost die in the hospital. And that was really between her and me getting sepsis. That was really the kick in the ass I needed to say, okay, life is too short. I was like praying, I don't want to die. And COVID was the exact same time. So it was like all this stuff happened. I'm so sorry.
Lauren's going to be so angry at
I didn't say the whole thing. I said part of it.
No, everyone's been swearing in the last few weeks. Our network.
So sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
And then I realized like there's so much to live for. There really is so much to live for. You know what I mean? And I saw what was happening with COVID and I turned it around and I said, you know what? I still have so much to give. I have 2 babies. I, was vice president of corporate communications. I'm going to take all that I learned and I'm going to start my own business. And that's what I did. I knew nothing about starting a business, y'all, nothing. And I did it all on my own. And we're going on our 4th year. I've won so many awards. It's unbelievable. I saved a man's life through my business, and my 2 kids are like awesome. And I'm literally traveling the world. That was the first thing that I did when I got out of the hospital with my sepsis. When COVID was over, I planned a trip with my dime, with my girl, and we went to South Africa for 3 weeks. And I've been to all most of my traveling now has taken the place of running, because I do think that people need to have their running or their traveling or their love, something, whatever that is, because that really has helped me mentally a lot. So I just feel like, life is my life changed in an instant. It really, I was running a half marathon and the next week I was, in October, but really the next week that's when my life changed. And it changed in a way where literally everything about me, every part about me changed, and not for the best.
I don't know what would have happened if I was diagnosed as an adult. I mean, I was so young that I didn't really have anything formed about me too much when I was diagnosed with MS. I mean, I was in college. I was 21 by the time I was finally diagnosed 2 years later. I mean, it's been a little more difficult as an adult now that they finally diagnosed everything that I've been suffering with. I was suffering so much in DC with the MCAS now. And it's, as an adult, I find it almost harder because I know who I am now. And I knew how to deal with the MS. Now I have something different. I don't know how to deal with. How do I change everything in my life that I thought was working?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the hardest things for me you're absolutely right, because it's been 5 years since I've been diagnosed. So I was 43. And when I got diagnosed, I was at the healthiest I had ever been in my life, right? Running marathons. So skinny, so fit, not eating meat, drinking socially. That's it. So I was doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. And yet you still get, given this card that makes you feel like, what do you do? What could I have possibly done to deserve this? I have 2 little kids. I'm in the bed. At that moment, my life was perfect. This is what I say when I speak a lot of the times. I had, the husband who was, the active duty Army. So we were super happy. He loved me. I loved him. The beautiful house in the suburbs with the white picket fence, 2 kids, a dog, traveling. We both had great jobs. My life was perfect until it wasn't. Yeah.
I think we have enough pressure on us. I was gonna say, I think we have enough pressure on us as women to constantly have to reinvent to go into this world. And I think that listening to your story, you're the perfect example of having to reinvent and choose a different path and keep going, because you tried all these different things and different things didn't, go how you wanted to. And also there's no shame in your story. I think mental health is something that a lot of people struggle with, especially having the rare diagnosis. You had a lot of stuff going on. Of course, you're going to feel the way that you did too. But the fact that you were able to rebuild and get to this place now that you're incredible, you're just such a inspiration to women, I think. Just your story.
Thank you.
I just want to ask you, so now where you are, you have a wonderful, thriving career. You have your wonderful friend and family.
Mhm.
where do you want to go next? Like, what amazing thing do you have planned for yourself? And do you know a lot of other people? Like, have you met other people with your disease?
Yeah, so I get asked a lot, like, what do you want to tell people who are in a similar situation as you, who maybe are feeling very lost or that they don't have support? Because that is one of the things. I felt very alone. I really felt very alone. I've really realized, like I said, who my true friends are, and there's that my circle has gotten very small, quality over quantity. And always tell the people, like, find one person, and if that person is online, fine, who cares?
Yeah.
Because we are very fortunate that we have the internet now where we can find other women. For me, because my disease, 90% are women, and we can go online to these support groups and find other women who we can talk to about our disease. And so through Facebook groups and through social media, TikTok and Instagram particularly, I have met several other women who have my disease, which has been awesome. And I'm like one of the older people who have FMD because I'm 5 years into it. That's how old. I mean, the disease was not even really recognized until 1989, which is weird, or 1990 or something like that. It's a relatively new disease. You know what I mean? Like, there's only less than 4,000 people in the registry. I'm one of them to research. That's how young this disease is. So they'll ask me questions because I'm like an oldie in the FMD world. And so that has been a lot of help, to be honest. So I tell people, like, go online, Google your disease, Google like discussion boxes or whatever, discussion boards. And that, I feel like that's super important. But for me, my pie in the sky dream, and I really want to do that, and I've been like manifesting like crazy, so I really want this to happen, is I really want to, like, I'm in the very starting phases of writing a book to help other women in particular who have chronic diseases or rare diseases, who maybe feel like they are stuck because they don't know where to go in business, in life. Because for women in particular who have chronic diseases, as Ashley said before, it is very hard to be in the workplace. I'm not sure I could ever go back to corporate marketing.
No.
My legs in particular are so bad because it's in my iliacs. My iliacs are disfigured. There are days where I have to work in bed because I can't even get out of bed because my legs hurt so bad. And
I do like my admin stuff. Sometimes I'm in bed or on the couch or something.
Yeah. So you know what it's like. And so, but I want them to know that there are options for them, particularly because we do have the internet. And so I want to be able to offer women, again, men too. I always say women because we're women, that there are options for them as well. And so that's kind of my goal. You know what I mean?
I think because men get more support in the end from other men, and I think that's why we always have a go-to to want to help other women.
Yeah. And I apologize, like, that's one of my, like, you have very cotton mouth when you take 7 medicines. Like, that's one of the downfalls of,
I'm sipping
7
on
prescriptions. It's really
Please, drinking is a biologic function. Like, no worries, at all.
I know. I feel like I have to tell people. But yeah, so that really is my dream, is to like write and I am in the very beginning phases of it. Like I said, I talked to the woman yesterday that I think I'm going to be working with to be helping me publish it, because I do think that I bring a very unique sort of angle perspective to that. And so that's really kind of what the next step in my life, I think, will be. And then, to take that book and do kind of what we did in Washington. And I would love to do that. I really would.
Let me know if I can help.
I will, believe me.
Yeah. What do your kids think about everything that you're doing? I know that at the heart of it, you were a proud mom, and I would love to hear more about that.
I love my babies so much. Well, they're 16 and 13 now, and they're like the best thing in the world. And I will tell you, my kids they're so resilient, because to first live with, we live in not a military town because their dad is National Guard, meaning they're not surrounded by a bunch of military brats. So to go through the 3 deployments that my kids have gone through with no support with other kids it's not easy. So they've lived through 3 deployments. They've lived through where my 13-year-old son, when he was 12 and when he was 9, he's had to call 911 on his mom twice as a little kid. It's not easy to do that. And now they've had to live through the divorce. Like, these are not easy things for these babies to live through. And they're so resilient. And me and my daughter and my son have such a good relationship.
They look so much like you from the pictures you post. It's ridiculous.
Well, my son does. Do you think my daughter does too? My son is like a
so
mini.
Older now, as I've seen them in the last year, she seems to be getting older. She seems to look more like you.
Good. I like that. Thank you. But they're like the best. They're like, my son is exactly a mini me. My daughter is like all brains. Like, she very well could be valedictorian or salutatorian, which I'm so proud of her. But my son is more like social, outgoing talk. And he's like worried because he's like, Mom, I'm only like a B student. I'm like, Mommy was only a B student. Your dad went to West Point and was all straight A's and got his MBA from Goizeta. And Mommy made more money than your dad for her till she lost her job at corporate communications. So you don't always have to be.
Hey, these are so good. All right, I am going to hold you right there. I'm going to go straight to a commercial again, and we are going to welcome Lauren. We are back with both of our lovely, thriving women that we have. Cindy's about to write a book. Lauren's just written a book, which I smell a Christmas present coming for all of us to share with our friends and family. I want to do a little wrap up before we go. I mean, we were talking about Cindy as a mom. You're a mom. What kind of healthy behaviors and business things do you want your kids to learn, Lauren?
Healthy business behaviors. So
healthy living. Whichever like behaviors you want your kids to pick up from you.
Oh, okay. Well, at the core of it, I really want my kids to eat properly and drink tons of water. Like, really, like, it's about putting really good food in their bodies. My youngest son is 19, and so he's away now for the first time away from home. And we've been working on that. When he was here, he didn't really take advantage of having a mother that's like really into health and wellness and, you know, really understanding it. And as I was trying to like say, listen, you have to eat a certain way, you have to drink certain things. Yes, we do take vitamins. Even if you're healthy, you take the vitamins so you stay healthy, you know, and learn how to detox his body. And so now he's away and he's asking those questions. He literally said, Mom, can you go ahead and order me some of those vitamins? I think I'm going to start taking them. I'm like, oh, that is amazing. So, you know, it takes, I think sometimes they get out of the house and they get around other people and they see how other people are living. And he's in a quad. So he's got 3 roommates and they're very different from him. And so that it's been cool to see that he actually kind of picked it up, even though he didn't implement it early. But on the business side, I want him on that healthy business side. I want him to understand how to make money himself, the power of that. And so he's actually already tapped into some entrepreneurial things. He likes to make these bracelets that people wear with these nice beads. And so, you know, I always teach him like, listen, you don't always have to be a consumer. So if people are loving these bead bracelets and you like them, you could sell them, you know? And so he's working on that. And he's a rollerblader. He used to play hockey. So he also started coaching. So I helped him his senior year start a little coaching. I don't say little, start a coaching business. So he was working with the kids here on Capitol Hill, teaching them how to rollerblade.
Similarly, what you were saying about how you kind of see what a job you got to get you're doing as a mom when your kid comes home and says what other kids are doing. And my daughter's 12 and she came home and told me that all of her friends at the lunch table do not eat healthy like she does, and that she always has her fruits and her vegetables. And she's like, this is just unacceptable. So she's like very big on it too. She's literally like my mom and her body. So anyway, Cindy, would love to hear more about some of your lessons too. And like, what do you like to cook for your kids during the week? Would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So my kids are it's kind of interesting. My kids since they were little, grew up very ethnic eating. So my husband is half Japanese, I'm half Italian. And so we've grown up with sort of, when they were 2, they started eating sushi. And that's the truth. So we make a lot of Japanese food at our house. Well, we used to before the divorce. Mommy doesn't know how to make sushi, but my daughter does, which is crazy. So my daughter makes sushi quite a bit at the house, which I just think is so fantastic. But we bring in a lot of ethnic food. So we're big on Indian foods, a lot of Indian food, a lot of Japanese food. Like I said, my daughter loves to bring that in. And then I'll bring in some of the Italian foods that my mom finally gave me. Finally, her spaghetti recipe, which is like a big deal, because it's right from Sicily.
Yeah.
So I finally have the great grandma's sauce recipe, which is
like she's not peering over your shoulder to make sure you don't tell us.
I know, right? I'm like, she's gonna be, because that is it's like handwritten. It's like one of those recipes.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to finally have that. But I will admit though that with my kids being 13 and 16, we're at the phase in life where we're running around doing everything. We're in sports. We're in 54 clubs. We're doing a million things. So we're on the run a lot. So unfortunately, those sit down meals are more for maybe on the weekends, definitely on Sundays. So it's like grabbing a protein bar, grabbing an apple, protein shake. And, a lot of times that's what it has to come down to, because Logan has football 5 days a week. And, he doesn't get
must be eating you out of house and home if he's playing football 5 days a week.
And his friend is basically living in our house. So I have 2 football players living at my house, and it's very expensive.
I don't want to know what your grocery bill is.
You don't. You really don't. No.
Lauren, do you have a go-to meal that you cook? Is there something that you really love to cook that was either a family thing? Lauren, Lauren, do you have family meal that you have a go-to that either you grew up with or that's something that you love?
Oh, well, I grew up with beans and beans was our go-to meal, and some cornbread, literally. But I do not like that anymore. Yeah, so I mean, my go-to meal really is really standard. So we love steak in our house. We're very Midwestern. I mean, we live on the East Coast, but we're very much from the Midwest. So we love good steak, some broccoli and potatoes, and bread. It's really go to. My son, he loves that, and it's really easy. And Cindy, I can relate to that. Josh, when he was in high school, even before high school, I mean, he's been in club sports forever, and all they do is they eat so much, and they always have a friend and then another friend, right? And then if you're that mom that's okay with handing out stuff, they're like, "Oh, Miss Buckner will give it to us." And so
100%.
Totally.
That is our house, which it's such a double-edged sword, because I love having the boys at our house. I love having, my house is the boy house. After football, we have a pool and we have a great basement for the kids. And so I love being the house. But it's expensive, I'll be honest, because you're always ordering pizzas, you're always, getting chick nuggets or Chick-fil-A nuggets, something. But, it's it's up because you love having them there. But then you're like, okay, it's costing me a couple $100 a week,
I know it just happened to me now because Josh, he and all his roommates got COVID a few weeks ago, and they couldn't leave. And so he was, he's asking for stuff. And then he's like, "Oh, and Austin asked if blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "How are they asking if I could? You must have said, 'Oh, my mom will also send you some stuff,' right?"
Yep. That's how it goes. That's how it goes.
Right? Because I'm I don't even know them. So I ended up sending a care package for the room.
Yep.
So it doesn't stop after the high school. It's not going to stop.
I love that. And Julie, you're just entering that phase. I mean, you have a girl, but I know teenage boys, they seem to be bottomless pits for some reason.
Yeah, my daughter has this snack. Well, she's an only child, so she gets when we get a pack of snacks, she doesn't have to share it with her brothers and sisters. So if we get a pack of 8 fruit snacks, she'll have it for a week and a half. So when her friends come over, there's all these extra snacks, and they get so excited. So we're known as a snack house, but it's when you have to accept too that these years are so short that they're even home. It's let's just enjoy having friends over, because when it's done, it's done. So.
And it goes so fast. I mean, right, Lauren? What do they say? The days are long, but the years are short, and that is so true. Yes, enjoy every second of it.
We really enjoyed having you guys today. This was really, really great.
I have one last question before we all go. On my Bella Foodie page for my business, we are running a gratitude challenge this month in a special Facebook group. So I want to know, ladies, all of you, What are you grateful for this November?
Well, when I was 4, I said that I was grateful for forks, and I still think I'm grateful for forks because if you think about it, you need one every day.
Big or small. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
like anything. I mean, you can say you're grateful for your morning coffee. I don't care. Just something.
I'm grateful for utensils.
I am without a doubt, especially since what we talked about earlier, grateful, so grateful that I have the 2 strongest, most resilient kids in the world. I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed.
Both of you right now.
I know. Group hug.
I know.
Lauren, what are you grateful for?
And Cindy, they're only strong because their mama is strong.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for my voice. I'm just really grateful for my voice these days and the words that I'm using. So it's an amazing part of my life to be in, to be able to use my voice, and I'm really grateful for it.
Thank you both. And I am grateful to all of you for coming on today, for sharing your stories, and you made me want to cry. I want to give you guys such good vibes and love through the screen. I'm sending you so much love, and I will talk to you all soon. So thank you so much. Have a lovely holiday.
Thank you.